Hey everybody, Brian from Bearable Traders here. It is the weekend, December 16th. Happy holidays to everybody out there. Let's kick things off. Last video before Christmas. We'll look at what happened last week in the markets. Certainly a lot of activity. And then we'll look ahead to this probably lower volume week that we got coming up here. So let's get down to it. And of course, let's start out with just going over quickly what happened last week. There was certainly a lot of action. It was an action-packed week. We had that much anticipated CPI number Tuesday, came in lighter than expected. Inflation a little bit cooler. And of course, the market just ripped higher on that in hopes that that might indicate the Fed would be backing off on their rate hikes, given the battle in inflation seems to be getting won. But Powell came out on Wednesday, kind of rained on that parade, and he really struck more of a hawkish tone than anything. And of course, some other number came out on Thursday, retail sales numbers, much weaker than expected, a drop of 0.6 compared to 0.2. So all of a sudden we had this switch in reaction to bad economic news. Became bad for the market, so we got a sell-off Thursday and Friday. Usually bad economic data has been good for the markets, but now we've got this fear that the Fed is going to over-tighten or keep tightening in the face of a economic downturn, and we could be heading for a more severe recession. So now that's sort of fears that are weighing on the market, investors and traders. Indexes, we finished down again on the second week here. Down not quite as much as the previous week, but still down significantly. Nonetheless, the Qs obviously taking the biggest hit there on the downside for the week. Energy was actually the only sector that finished in the green. Materials, consumer discretionaries, these are the ones that are hit hard when you have a recession. They were the biggest losers. The Treasury yield was down a little bit on the 10-year and the 2-year. US dollar slightly up this week, but we had some of the other countries starting to talk about raising rates, which may create some downward pressure on the dollar as well here. So, but looking at the chart, maybe we're going to find some support. There's been a pretty significant sell-off on the dollar since that big run through fall. And Bitcoin, of course, Bitcoin was up and down with the markets as well, really kind of trading with them as of now, or at least as of early in the weekend. It was trading down below 17,000 and still maybe suffering a little bit from the FTX fallout. So anyway, that's how things looked last week. Let's jump ahead here and just take a look and see where we're going. And before we start looking at some charts here, let's take a quick moment to check out my book on Amazon, Profiting as an Active Trader, Trading Tools, Management, Money Management Rules, Strategies, and the Routines of an Active Stock and Options Trader. So you can check that out. It is available on Amazon. And let's get down and look some charts now. Starting as always with the Treasury yields, I like to keep an eye on those, obviously, because they are sort of driving the market here. And you can see we're starting to get a bit of a rollover on the 2-year. And I believe we're seeing that on the 10-year as well. So you can see here, market's kind of pricing in a possible recession, because when there is a recession, interest rates drop. So we're getting a pullback off these highs here, especially on the longer term yields, which are the 10-year, and they're down under 3.5%. So we are still in an uptrend, and you can see we're just starting to get into this lower band of the uptrend. So we'll see if this trend continues here. You can see stochastics have rolling over. MACD is heading south, and so is the RSI. All the momentum indicators are heading down and into some where we should either see some support or further breakdown. So transports on the week, you can see here, it was pretty much an up and down week, real roller coaster, and we've got FedEx reporting next week, so that should be quite interesting. I'm sure this will have an impact on where transports go. You can see here, though, we have pulled right back up to this area where we broke out from, kind of flirting with this gap level again. So kind of a crucial area here for the transports, and a pretty high volume day on Friday as well here. But momentum is starting to trend to the downside. You can see here we're making a series of lower highs. Again, not looking that great. So this is a sort of a critical area of support for the transports on the daily. And pretty weak, or pretty ugly weekly candle. Kind of expected that from the price action. Tried to break out and finish pretty much down where we started from on the week, and we did so on volume there. So again, sort of a critical area for the transports, and I'm sure that'll be that move will be something will happen once we get FedEx. The Dow again dropped down, almost got to the 200-day moving average and bounced off it. But you can see here, this is an area right here where we have some support where we rejected before, but pulled back and then broke out from. So now we're right back there again. Closed the week on significant volume, by the way. And the weekly again, looking weak on the weekly. The Qs, again, we're back down into sort of a trading range here. And the Q's looking the worst of all because, of course, we are down here flirting with these, going to be down here flirting probably with these October lows. If it doesn't happen this year, it may well happen in the new year. Not overly constructive on the markets for the last week or two of the trading week, or trading month, I should say, into the end of the year. We do seem to have shifted in sentiment here, where all of a sudden bad news, bad economic news has now become bad news for the market. And I spoke about that a little earlier, and we'll see if that sort of trend continues. But definitely a shift in sentiment here, which may make a Santa Claus rally, which everybody kind of looks for, especially between Christmas and New Year's, those days between those two holidays. It may make it a little bit challenging here. You can see here SPY. We've had some pretty big volume days here on the SPY on this sell-off. So that's an indication that maybe more institutions are in there selling. Again, worry about next year. Again, we've been just making a series of lower highs here. You can see a lower high here, and again, right at this trend line. If I extended that down there, that would probably just hit right at that trend line. And you can see here the moving average is all rolling over as well. So not looking particularly bullish for the SPY either. And the IWM again struggling. This will be an index that will struggle in a recession, along with the technology sector, the Qs, heavily laden Qs. IWM again on the week, we actually lost the 200 weekly moving average here, and we may come back down and test this October low right in here. Volatility, this was the curious one. Despite the fact that we had a big sell-off, we've actually finished down on the day in terms of volatility. And if actually I'll go back here, if we look at the weekly, even though we were down on the week, we were actually down on the volatility index too. So traders may be expecting not a lot of volatility as we go into these last 2 weeks of the year, which means maybe we just we don't get a rally, but we don't get a big sell-off either, is kind of what the VIX is telling us here. So let's pick it up where we left off on the dollar. You can see here after we had this big run up, ECB have started to raise rates, and you can see that's going to be before, when it was just the US Fed raising rates, that obviously drove the dollar higher. But now that ECB and maybe some of the other central banks are going to start raising rates, this is going to put pressure on the dollar as well. So we've had a nice sell-off on the dollar, and you can see again series of lower highs here. So we'll see if we can actually break above here, but if we can't and we continue to head lower, this could mean that stocks like, or things like gold, silver will do well. You can see here we had a bit of a doji, bit of a reversing candle maybe on the weekly here. We did come down, kind of fill this gap in again here, and bounced off it. So we might get a bounce here, and the volume here on UUP was pretty strong on the week. Bitcoin, again, we're just trading under 17,000. had a nice pop up with the rest of the market on Tuesday, but then again sold off with the market on Wednesday and Thursday and continues to struggle. Bitcoin, again, sort of still a lot of shaken confidence in after this FTX thing. So let's just get down and look at some of the stocks I am looking at. I'm looking at a trade here on Activision. I kind of like, I read a story about someone else who was looking at this trade, and I kind of liked it. It was actually buying the stock and starting to sell upside calls. So you'd be, because Microsoft has bid for this. I believe the takeout price is $95 a share. You can see it's really well off that that buyout level. So thinking about buying it and just holding on to the stock, selling say 90 or 95 calls, and just keep taking in the premium. I think that there is a fairly good chance that this deal will happen. The FTC is suing Microsoft to stop the deal, which is supposed to go through mid-year, but I think they have a pretty weak case. So again, bit of a risky trade, and but Activision does have some things going for it, Call of Duty and some other good games, and so maybe the downside isn't that good, but you've got $20 in upside on this, so and maybe down to 70 on the downside, so a $6 down and maybe 20 up, so maybe not a bad idea for a stock trade. So I'll look at that next week. Kind of like that one. Boeing, I've been watching Boeing. I was in it. I did get out of it after this nice big run. It's still showing some strength here. This 180 level definitely looks like resistance, and there does seem to be some concern about the travel sector next year. How maybe people have done all their travel that was pent up there, and now, but Boeing just got a big order from United, and yeah, so they seem to be doing fairly well, but again, we may just be stalled out here for the rest of the year on Boeing, but watching for that breakout. CRM's looking very tenuous here. It looks like it might actually break down. So I'm watching that for a short. Flex has pulled back here. Might be a good place to get an entry. I still have some here and holding on to it. Gold, again, if the dollar starts to weaken up here, gold will do well. Tesla, again, Tesla was really at this 150 level on Friday, just a critical level. It actually traded below it after hours. I think it was down to 149, and it continues to look extremely weak. Tesla is not looking very good here for Elon, who seems to be distracted by everyone's concerned that he seems to be more distracted by Twitter and all the things that are going on there, and he's kind of losing some I guess that Musk cachet. So Tesla not looking that great right now, and probably some more downside on Tesla. They did try to hold that 150 level. They held it into the close, but again traded down there after hours. So we'll be watching that on Monday. URA, just terrible price action. That's why I got out of it. So maybe look at getting back in somewhere around 19 or so for uranium. Energy, and the only sector that was up on the week, may start to do a bit of a bounce here in anticipation maybe that China might be starting to come back online. And Yeti, it did try to break out, but it still couldn't hold above this 46 level, so still watching it, but nothing there yet. And I believe that's it for watches, and so let's wrap things up here. So let's put a wrap on things here for the week of December 17th. As again, it is going to be probably a lower volume week, which means machines may be pushing things around a little bit more. But again, there is some stuff going on. We do have Tuesday, we've got the housing starts, building permits coming out at 8:30. Going to give a read on that market. We do have core PCE number coming out on Friday. just before the markets close for Christmas. So this will be interesting because it's always a good read on inflation as well. So these are your numbers for the Dow, Q, SPY, and IWM. We do have some earnings, and actually some interesting earnings coming up this week. Tuesday we've got General Mills in the morning. We've got Nike and FedEx, so these are going to be highly anticipated and watched. We do have CCL, the Carnival Cruise Lines, in the morning on Wednesday. That'll obviously be a good read on the tourism sector. And of course, we've got that semi-MU going to be reporting on Wednesday. So some interesting earnings reports coming up this trading week just before Christmas. So anyway, that's it, everybody. Hope you have had a good holiday season so far. And we will see what happens on Monday morning. It's going to be interesting. And of course, we will be starting live at 8 a.m. Live on YouTube, and 8:30 pre-market show. And of course, trading the market open with our members at 9:30. So hopefully we'll see you there. Take care, everybody, and have a good week. Bye for now.